Welcome everyone to another Whiskey Wednesday. I've come to look forward to this, Dave.
Yeah, no kidding. It's a good way to get half the hump day over with.
Right. Yeah, this is pretty cool. And you know what's great about it is you're forced to kind of write down and think through all the things you've talked about, all the meetings you had, and all the wins you've had over the previous week, and the progress that's made. So that's pretty cool too. Just even preparing for it, in the hour before we jump on camera with you guys. So yeah, today we're gonna.
Yes, we got a lot of people logging in too, so it'll be awesome. Highly encourage everyone to participate. Type some stuff in the chat if there's anything good on your side going on, any good wins or things that you're implementing in your business. So a lot of names popping in here. A lot of familiar names logging in. So it's nice to see.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm excited about the NFL draft. It was kind of cool. Pablo, we're going to be opening up the office on a limited basis at C2P. So we've had 50, 60 people working from home. And him and I went in there, doing a little dry run and decided to watch the Browns draft, in the office last week, which was fun. It was nice. I missed my buddy Pablo. We got to hang out and it felt kind of normal. We were in the kind of cafeteria and we sat like two booths apart and watched the draft and split a bottle of tequila. So that was fun. But yeah, I'm gonna get a bad impression to everybody talking Whiskey Wednesday, splitting a bottle of tequila, watching the draft. You know what they say though, all progress starts with the truth, right? Cheers.
Cheers to that. So Jason, I see you got the good old Woodford out tonight, huh?
Yeah. You know what? Before I kind of share, I tell you what, I was just playing with the kids. We have one of those giant umbrellas, or not umbrellas, parachutes, and so each one of them are having me like wrap them up and pull them around the house and carry them around. It's like a workout. I'm literally like sweating. But we're gonna mix it up a little bit today before we talk about our whiskey, and Rob's gonna do a cocktail for us like he always does. I want to plan a little something that I'd love to get feedback from everybody on the line, and we can read, Dave can, throughout the broadcast of what the responses were. But I was on a call with the owners of White Glove, Dean Thurman, Mike Thurman, and the owners of another FMO. They're interested in us training their advisors. And so we were on this meeting, and he had asked, Dean did, the owner of White Glove, or the founder, he asked the question. He said, there were some young guys on the call, and he said, if you had to do something over again, if you could do a time machine and go back to the beginning of your career, what would you do differently, or what would you do that you didn't do that you think would have propelled the success of your career? It was a really interesting question. And my answer immediately was to get the CFP designation. I've always had an incredible amount of respect for that designation. I don't have a college degree, so I'm not eligible to get the designation. But I remember when you got it, Dave, what was it, maybe 4 years ago now?
Yeah, about that. Whenever we went to New Zealand, I can't remember what year that was.
Yeah, but I felt like I got it myself. I was so proud of you, man. It was just like unbelievable how great that felt. And I think a young person entering this career, there's no better investment than that. So let me hear your responses. We'll talk a little bit more about it as we go throughout the broadcast, but what would you do, or what would you recommend to new advisors entering this business? What would you do differently in your career, or what do you think they should do to set themselves up for success? So before we go into the whiskey, Dave, well, we already did a little bit, but before we start talking about it, Rob does the cocktail. I've invited Rob who's the integrator for the JL Smith Group. He runs the operations, and the team all reports up to him. And he's been tracking the different marketing programs that we've been doing and the initial results of them. And as I've said before, I'm going to share total transparency with you what the results have been so far for us. But I will say I was getting a little bit discouraged. Last week I kind of shared, some struggles we were having, but the progress that we've made in a short period of time, I think we've done like our 5th webinar now, and the how much better we've gotten at presenting. And when I say we, I'm talking about Brian and Jeff Warnkin, Brian Bivo and Jeff Warnkin. But they went from like a 3 the first time to like a 10 last night on the one they did last night. And they have another one tonight. Last night was an estate planning workshop. Tonight, they're doing weathering the storm. And it's in a half hour from now. And so Rob wants to make sure all the technology's right and all that stuff. But I asked him to share with us the progress that we've made in marketing, some of the stats. And so I want to invite Rob on so he can jump off and tend to that Weathering the Storm webinar that we're about to do here in 20 minutes or so. So welcome, Rob. Thanks for joining.
Absolutely. Jason, thanks for having me. I don't have my bottle of whiskey. Whiskey Wednesdays, I thought it implied the whole day. So it's gone. I started this morning. But no, I appreciate you having me on, and I apologize for having a short amount of time. Like as you mentioned, we're doing our second Weathering the Storm webinar here at 6 o'clock. So, just wanted to share, not only the raw numbers, but also just kind of the customer experience that we had with different organizations, different platforms, some of the success that we've had. But definitely want to echo your sentiment as well about just the improvement in the delivery that we've seen since the beginning. Since the beginning, it was 2 weeks ago, right? It feels like 2 months ago. But 2 weeks ago until last night, the energy, the polish, it's really been outstanding from our presenters. But just kind of updated numbers. I know last week you provided the numbers that we had to that point. I think as you were doing Whiskey Wednesday last week, we were presenting our first Weathering the Storm webinar, which I think was a huge success. We had 65 registrants, 58 of those attended. And thus far, we've actually set 20 first appointments. We've got more on the schedule, just haven't come up yet to kind of give you an idea if they've rescheduled or if they've canceled or how successful that one was. But we really feel strongly about the Weathering the Storm webinar, connecting with our clients and reaching out and getting referrals. So that's really been outstanding. And there's definitely, a tip of the cap to the C2P team for that presentation. It's really been outstanding. We had another AFIA Medicare webinar in the interim as well. It wasn't as well as attended as the first two, the Social Security and the taxes and retirement. We only had about 6 of the 15 people show up for that one. So we're reevaluating, whether we want to continue to move forward with that one. But one thing with AFIA that we found is that
Medicare one you're referring to, right?
Yeah, that's correct. Yep.
Yeah.
But we have found that the AFIA attendees have been really engaged in it. So I think it's more kind of quality over quantity there, I suppose, with AFIA. So far, kind of our first round of 3 that we've done, the Social Security benefits, taxes and retirements, and Medicare.
What's the, how many were registered for those 2, the Social Security and taxes and retirement? Do you have that?
Yeah, so there's 15 registered for Social Security, had 7 attendees. Taxes and retirement, there were 13 registrants, had 8 attendees, and then Medicare, we had the lowest number of 6 attendees out of 15. But we found that those that did attend were, like I said, pretty engaged and pretty interested as well.
Out of that batch? How many appointments out of that batch of 3?
Yeah. And then we did a estate planning webinar last night.
Rob, sorry, I was asking, how many appointments did we get out of those attendees, out of that batch of attendees of those 3?
Oh, okay. Yeah. So we had 5 appointments for Social Security. We had 7 first appointments for taxes and retirement. And then Medicare, we just had 1 thus far. Yeah. Yeah.
15 appointments out of that campaign. Yep.
Yeah. Right. So we actually had our first estate planning one last night, which really knocked it out of the park from a presentation standpoint. Really did a great job. Presenters did a great job. Brian and Jeff, and Russ McLaughlin, the attorney that we had on there. It was really powerful. So we had 23 registrants. We had 18 of those registrants show up. And then during the call to action, where they can schedule a meeting right in the webinar, we had 2 scheduled, which is actually more than the other ones so far. So but again, I think that more is just like a comfort level with the call to action part. And I think that was the most effective last night at that estate planning webinar of getting, driving the point home, mentioning at the beginning, mentioning it throughout, really encouraging setting an appointment during the webinar. So, we did have 2, and then today the round of calls to go out with the follow-up. I don't have that data just yet for that. Again, it just happened last night. We were making the calls throughout the day, but we had 2 scheduled last night.
Yeah, and to be clear, on the AFIA ones, nobody booked appointments on the spot.
That's right.
All of them were due to the follow-up phone calls, so we don't have the data on the follow-up calls from the one last night.
That's right. Yeah, we're making those throughout the day today. And then today we actually had a ProFeds workshop, which, for the benefit of the group, it's an organization, ProFeds, that works exclusively with federal agencies and federal employees. And so it's been kind of a months-long project for us to reach out and get registrants, but they have the whole workshop and the whole seminar set up turnkey to do. In fact, obviously it had to switch from an in-person workshop to a webinar today, but it was all day. It was 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. And there were 54 registrants. We're going to get all the data tomorrow about how many actually showed up, but there were 54 registrants. And the one thing that I really love that they did was they spent the first 20 minutes of this webinar promoting us as the expert, as those who can help all these federal employees on the webinar, helping them with their retirement plan, with their financial plan. It wasn't just a minute, hey, talk to these guys at J.L. Smith who can help you out. I mean, they really hammered the point home for the first 20 minutes. They did it again at the end. Their call to action was a complete evaluation form for them to fill out, where they can specifically request yes or no that they want to talk to somebody. But what I really liked is not only did they position us as the expert at the beginning and at the end, but really creating a sense of urgency that they need to talk to somebody to understand their benefits and to make sure that they're taken care of in retirement. So I really thought that part of it was outstanding. So we'll get all the data and the stats on it tomorrow when we do our post-webinar call. But I thought it was really outstanding, first impression of it today. So. Yeah.
Great. Yeah, that's
cool.
awesome.
We got a few questions that I just want to throw out here, Rob, if you have another minute with us. John Dowd did his first white glove Social Security virtual webinar. 20 people registered, or he had 20 people there, 3 appointments so far. Joe Bolello would have shown up in more places. Yeah, sorry. I think maybe your comment got cut off there, Joe, if you want to restate it. Mary Sturk had said, it seems like low numbers of registrants, but I don't know what webinar she was referring to, Mary, if you want to type in the comment. Don Chamberlain put in, is the first appointment from JL Smith Group a phone call or a virtual strategy session?
We're scheduling them as virtual strategy sessions. Yep.
How long are they, Rob?
For AFIA. The other ones are, but they're all 20 minutes, aren't they? Even the AFIA ones?
We schedule for 30. Yeah.
Okay. But I think we tell them it's 20, but we block 30 minutes. So
that's right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
And then a couple others real quick. What estate webinar did you use? Horse's Mouth? It was the question.
You use Tony Gomes?
Tony Gomes's? Okay, gotcha. And then what are the results from Weathering the Storm workshop?
Yeah, so we had 65 registrants, 58 attended. Thus far, we've got 20 appointments out of that. Now, there's certainly some that are on the schedule that haven't happened yet, but I would just have 20 that we've actually made contact with and had a conversation with. So yeah, those, I feel the Weathering the Storm webinar was a huge success for us. And we have another one here in 15 minutes. So looking forward to see how that one goes as well.
Yeah.
For all of those 20 new people or existing clients was a question.
Mostly existing clients. But it's an opportunity to get referrals from them, review the bucket plan in addition to the annual review, just another touch point with them and see if there's any opportunities. Yeah.
Because we're running the referral process that we bought from Bill Cates, and Brian's run through the training, Brian and Jeff. So, yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
And then one more with AFIA, is my understanding you can't do a call to action during the webinar, correct?
Well, what we say is that there will be a strategy session scheduled as well. So we have to use that terminology specifically. Yeah.
Cool. And Greg Hammer said, Dave, it looks like you need a haircut more than me, and that is accurate.
I'm growing out my ZZ Top.
Hammer, for all the reasons I will not let Alana cut my hair.
And so, Rob, we'll talk about a little bit about what we're doing with Advisorist on next week's Wisty Wednesday.
Yep.
The LinkedIn marketing, and also the progress we've made on the Facebook marketing using the White Glove, what's it called, their program?
Social Connect. Yep.
Social Connect. So we'll talk about those two next week. I'll have you back and give an update. Yeah.
That sounds great. Absolutely.
Right. Yeah. Take care.
And
thanks for having me.
Jason, thanks, Rob. Appreciate it. Right before, just while we're on the topic, I'll give a quick update because a lot of people have been asking it. But on the webinars I've been doing, building out the Facebook campaigns, we're running right at about $19 a cost per registration. I have done my last one so far. My last one brought in about $4 million of assets, investable asset opportunities with the people that I've done fit calls with right now. And we have quoted out about $7,000 of planning fees so far. So, I think the sales cycle, there's a lot of follow-up involved from the webinar, but that's where we're at right now. And I just scheduled next Wednesday, I'm doing a taxes and retirement. Those ads will run. I was starting to do some test ads, and I already got a couple people registered at under $5 a registrant. And we're doing a women's worth one for Jeanette. We're running over the weekend. It'll be on Monday on her total well-being, which is for women only. And that'll be really exciting. But we've got 24 different ads running on Facebook to figure out which ones are going to optimize the best too, to help, start looking at how we can bring these resources at C2P to help people with the webinar stuff. So more to come on that, but a lot of the stuff we're testing kind of in the innovation incubator behind the scenes.
Yep. No doubt. So again, everybody, just another call. What would you have done differently? You go back to the beginning of when you started your career. And here in a few minutes, we'll start sharing some of the responses. But everybody, get your responses in. Keep it on the webinar topic. I want to share unbelievable progress, as I mentioned before, that we've made. And Dave, what's the resource that you found on the stacking that we've started to incorporate in our webinars even?
Yeah, so over the weekend I was doing a lot of research, and there's a guy out there named Russell Brunson. And Russell, he founded a company called ClickFunnels, which is probably one of the biggest funnel marketing companies in the universe. And he literally built this company to over $350 million and only has 2 salespeople. And a big part of kind of his expertise is he sells high ticket sales. And what he structures it, and if you think about what we do on financial planning, we're a high ticket sales item, right? Like people pay us generally at least $1,000 to go through our process. And so what he teaches is how to sell that through webinars, essentially. And so I bought his course on how to, it's everything, how to pre-approach, how to deliver the actual webinar, how to build the PowerPoint, how to follow up. But there's a lot of psychology to how you build and deliver the webinar. Generally during a constructive webinar, you're going to ask for a close, like a trial close, 15 to 20 times throughout it. You're going to bring excitement and passion to all these different points through the webinar. But more importantly, there's this stacking close where by the end of the webinar, you need to deliver this message that it is such a good offer, you'd be crazy to pass up on it. And so there's a lot of training behind it, but that's ultimately what it was. And we bought a course on it, and we've been starting to package some of it.
Yeah, that's great. And I'll tell you, one of the things, some of the things we've learned is, and this was a conversation I was having with Richard James, because we were both, right out of the gate starting to do, webinars as quickly as we could to try to work through the kinks. And I would encourage all of you who haven't pulled the trigger already, at least pull the trigger on the weather the storm. I mean, that's a free one. That's out to your existing clients and getting as many of their loved ones engaged as you can. And so, yeah, about 2/3 of the attendees have been clients, but we're getting a few dozen referrals that have attended the Weather the Storm between last Wednesday and tonight. And so it's well worth doing it and getting in front of your best clients. So do that one first, get out of the gate with it. But some of the mistakes, and I shared some of those last week, but improvements that we've made is we've built in polling now. So now throughout, we've scheduled, polls that are done and where they're multiple choice and they're engaging, right? We're creating engagement. The other thing we've done is, you really want someone with an ability to close, somebody who can open really strong with high energy and who can confidently ask for the call to action throughout and close really strong. And there's a certain ability that a lot of advisors don't have. And so you can be one of the best financial advisors, financial planners in the country, but it doesn't mean that you're going to be really good as an opener and a closer of a webinar. So we've changed the format a bit. Brian Bibbo is a fantastic high energy opener, closer, adds a lot of engagement, humility, and his voice tonality up and down, keeps it very interesting. And so now what we've gone to, before Jeff and him used to co-present, now Brian is leading the show and bringing Jeff in as a subject matter expert. And we've seen tremendous improvement. And we did that last night where Brian introduced the estate planning attorney. He did a poll before he was introduced. The estate planning attorney talked. Brian did a poll after it was he presented, and did the same thing with Jeff Warnkin, made it so much more engaging. And Brian closed at the open on the 20-minute consultation, talked about the 20-minute consultation throughout and all the benefits, called future tensing, getting people to think about and visualize what it's going to be like to be on that call. And then at the end, Brian closed it out again. So we learned some of the mistakes, and you guys too, you gotta figure out, if you're that opener and closer, great. You might want to bring somebody else in if you're not. And if you're the subject matter expert, that's great. And maybe, you got to figure out what role you're going to play. And maybe you're a unicorn like Brian is that can actually do both. He's a fantastic financial planner, and he can open and close with a lot of passion and a lot of engagement and voice tonality and, keeping things interesting throughout.
So Jason, I just want to share my big takeaway. So I found this course at about 7 o'clock at night on Friday, and I got so excited about it, I pulled an all-nighter. And I went through the whole course, and then it just hit me like a ton of bricks, and I rebuilt out, the webinar I'm going to deliver on taxes and retirement using this proven process. And the one key bullet point that I made a mistake on my first 2 webinars is I was focused on educating and not selling. And the whole theory is sell today, educate tomorrow. And I think naturally we all tend to educate today and then hope our education makes the sale. But in the webinar environment, there is that psychology of creating sales. And that's what Brian was good at and what you've seen a jump in your results from. So that's great. And we're going to get to Rob. Rob's going to mix us up a cocktail. But as we're doing that, please keep sharing what Jason asked earlier. If you can go back to when you began your career, as he's mixing up a cocktail, I'm going to share. We're going to share a couple of these great responses in here. And then we have some questions on some of the topics that we just spoke about. So, Rob, why don't you jump on and join us? I know you got a good one today. There's the fedora. It's going to become iconic in C2P now. You're going to have to wear it at every event we do when we're able to meet live. But what do you got for us tonight?
Tonight we're doing the Paris Manhattan. It's another take on the Manhattan, and this time we're using Saint Germain, which is one of my most favorite liqueurs around, and it's made in France, hence the Paris Manhattan. So while I'm doing this, I have a question for you guys. Do you know what the qualifications are for bourbon to be called bourbon?
I do.
Jason or Matt?
What's that?
Jason or Matt, do you know what qualifications it takes for bourbon to become bourbon?
He knows.
How to be made.
So you're excluded from answering, Dave. Well, Dave, you had your bachelor party on the Kentucky Bourbon Trail, so it is kind of unfair. I do not know.
It's yeah, Matt or Dave, do you know? 2 ounces of bourbon, first of all, for this.
It's got to be made in Kentucky.
Negative. It has to be made in the United States. That said, 95% of all bourbon does come from Kentucky.
If you go to Kentucky, they'll argue with you that they might shoot you and bury you in a field if you say that.
It's true. Then we did a 1/2 ounce of Saint Germain. We're going to do a 1/3 of an ounce of dry vermouth. Do you also know that all bourbon is whiskey, but not all whiskey is bourbon? And then we're doing 2 dashes of bitters. Let that one sink in.
Couple of things, Rob, while you're mixing that up. Mike said if he could go back to his early years, Mike Slaughter, he said he would become intensely involved with committing to a CRM system. Mike, I'm sure you've ran into a lot of people over all the years you've been doing this. It'd be nice to have those, I'm sure. Joe Bolello says I would have shown up in more places, being seen and being known. And John Jenkins said, I got my CFP designation in 1985 at the beginning of my career. What I would do differently is focus on marketing expertise rather than placing such an emphasis on technical expertise. So he took the opposite route of you, Jason. A couple good ones there. Rob, what do you got for us?
So when you guys get your lemon peel, typically what you'll do is like you'll twist it and then you'll kind of spin it around here. But what I like to do is sort of like squeeze it just a bit and you get this nice spray of oil, and that's the lemon oil. And that way you get a little bit of lemon in your drink as well. And there you have it, Paris Manhattan.
Nice. So we got it right there below, a live picture from Rob's house. We got the ingredients, got the little twist of the peel, looking good.
And I do try to move my everyday bourbon into a nice decanter, so it looks a little classier, but it's Maker's Mark, which you can't go wrong with. So
absolutely, that's what I'm drinking tonight. The old tried and true Maker's Mark.
Can't go wrong.
Jason, a couple others. Rob, that was awesome. The recipe is in the handouts in the go-to webinar.
Yep.
Mary Sturck said she'd start working on building my recurring revenue right from the beginning instead of taking a lot of upfront commission. It took me about 5 years of owning my own firm before I switched. So I think a lot of people can probably relate to that.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good night.
All
right, Rob, we appreciate it.
Yeah, you know what's interesting about that is, you know, when I answered that question yesterday, it just got me thinking all day yesterday, last night, today. And, you know, I had Dan Sullivan, you know, strategic coach, has been a coach of mine for a number of years, like going on 15 years. And he always has said, and it resonated with me, there's no better investment than in your own intellectual capital, because nobody can ever take that away from you. You know, you can be like completely like taking everything away, be naked in the middle of the streets, and you can rebuild yourself from the ground up with that intellectual capital. Nobody can ever take that away from you. And that resonated with me. But there was another mentor of mine. He actually owned an FMO that I used to do my business through in my mid 20s. And he used to always say to me, Jason, it's not about what you know, because he knew what an avid reader and learner I was. I was always just trying to, like, I don't know, just knowledge is power, right? I always try to build my intellectual capital. And he said, it's not about what you know, it's about who you know. And there's a lot of truth to that, right? I mean, there's absolutely. And I don't think there's one right or wrong way. But when I think about young people getting started, I think getting that baseline of education in this career, I mean, the CFPs, the benchmark designation, that's why I answered that. But I do think it is so much about who you know. But first, I think you need to know what, because before you can open the doors to get to the who's, right? It's like you got to get the what before
Or
you can.
fake it till you make it.
Yeah. A lot of
So we had Tony Gomes actually has the best one on here, in my humble opinion. He said, I'd become a C2P trainee and partner and implement their tried and true comprehensive retirement process. I'd go bucket planning crazy. So nice, Tony.
That's
So.
a good. Thanks, Tony.
Yeah, nice. We got a lot of stuff coming in here.
The other thing I want to talk about real quick, piggybacking off that conversation of the evolution we've made in the webinars. And if anybody wants, we're recording all our webinars. So if you want to see the weather the storm one that Brian is doing with Jeff tonight, just hit us up, hit your business development partner up. We'll get you a copy of it. We'll get you the updated PowerPoint deck, because we're constantly tweaking it. So what you have right now is probably outdated, and even the recording of them giving it. And, it's a work in progress, but we've made a lot of great progress on that. But, one of the things we really realized, and part of this is working on the accountability chart through the EOS program that a lot of our offices through C2P are now running on, is there's a difference between business development and the financial planner that sits down with the client. There are two different skill sets, and we're even building two different responsibility agreements on the accountability chart. Now, somebody like Brian Bibbo holds both. Somebody like Jeff Warnkin, he's an unbelievable financial planner, but he's not really a business development person to his core. And so what do I mean by that? What I mean by that is there's really three closes that need to happen, throughout the process of eventually having them be a client of the firm, a wealth management client. Close number one is you got to close them on a sit down. Somebody needs to close them on sitting down for a first appointment. That's business development. That's somebody who's out there networking, they're presenting at events, they're doing webinars, they're a power opener, they're a power closer, they're very engaging, they got a magnetic personality. That's a certain skill set for a business development person. Then the second close is when they sit down for the first appointment, you got to close them to agree to go through the process. And so that second close, a financial planner should be able to do that very well. And that third close is closing them on moving the assets and moving forward with the implementation at the end of the financial planning engagement, really making them a wealth management client. One of the things we've realized is we needed to decouple those two, because we were forcing top-notch financial planners that weren't necessarily extroverts, business development people, and into a box of they had to go out and hunt for new business and business development. And if that's not your skill set, maybe you consider bringing on a business development person to your firm. If that is your passion and that's your unique ability, maybe you consider bringing on another associate advisor that can do a lot of the financial planning heavy lifting. But we've kind of come to that realization, and we've even experienced that in the webinars of like, Jeff was not a good opener and closer, but he's an amazing subject matter expert. right? He's a CFP, he's a CPA, master's in taxation, but Brian needs to run the show, opening it, closing it, and keeping really high energy and engagement throughout. So we're learning as we go.
Absolutely. So a couple more questions that we have. Could we get copies of the webinars to watch or get copies of them? And yeah, I mean, we've made that available. I've probably had 100 advisors log into the last couple I've given. If you're with C2P, we'll give you the PowerPoints. We'll give you everything we're using. If you're not with C2P, you should be. You're on this watching here, so you're obviously getting value out of it. But yeah,
but
absolutely.
If you get on a call with our guys, we'll probably give you a little nugget just to get you even more excited and again.
That's right. But Carol said, I found it extremely helpful to watch Dave give his virtual webinar. Thanks for letting us on. Is it possible to watch Brian give his estate planning one? Absolutely. Yep. The answer is just talk to your business development team. They'll get you piped in. I got a taxes and retirement next Monday or next Wednesday. We're doing these. We're flooding them out there. We're continuing to spend all of our money to test them so that we can work out the kinks. And we're coming on to this event to share with you everything that's working and what's not working. So we're happy to continue to do that. And anything that we can do to help, let us know.
Yep. Big mistake we made not building in the call to action up front and several times throughout. And even like with the AFIA, the call to action is the strategy session. You can build that in talking about it in future tensing of like what it's going to be like, what the experience is going to be, all the questions that are going to get answered, etc., all throughout.
And you have to give examples of how it's helped other people, right? So people can relate to it. Like, you know, what does tax planning actually mean? Well, let me show you how this QCD that we did saved this last client $5,000 of income tax they didn't need to pay by giving the same money to the church, right? Like that's something people are like, wow, I need to hear about that. And like, this is all the sales training to really conduct good webinars. And you have to say it with excitement and passion because nobody wants to sit there on a webinar and hear, well, if you do a QCD, you're going to save on income tax, right? It's like, can you believe we saved this person $5,000? Here's exactly what we did. Why wouldn't you want to do this? You know, like there's so much psychology in how to deliver it effectively. So, all right, a couple other things, Jason, that we just want to go over and, you know, continue to have the questions coming in, but we always give a good update on the content that we've produced in the last week, and this week's no different. So a couple of the key things that have been rolled out this week from a content perspective is we did a training. We brought in Bill Cates, who's we've mentioned earlier, the godfather of referrals. We've edited it down, so if you missed it or you want to go back on, go through that training. It is available on the e-learning site right now, so Bill Cates' referral training is there. We also brought in Apollo Lupescu, who is like he's just incredible at explaining things from Dimensional, and he delivered one of the best communications trainings I've ever been through. It was a 2-hour course just to help us really articulate a lot of the complex things that we need to explain to our clients. And so that is available as well now. If you missed it, we had great attendance at both of those for the people who watched it live. At C2P Advisory Group, our FMO, we have made a lot of updates on the product shelf. There's a lot of changes, interest rates. I think I just saw the Fed made another announcement today. Interest rates continue to change, products continue to change. Make sure that you're tapping into your business development team and our CFP team to make sure you are leveraging the most attractive products in today's market for your clients. So I know that product shelf just got updated. Talk to your business development team about that. There was a panel, Jason, you led yesterday, I believe, on virtual advisor best practices. Kind of the theory was like, we're 30 days into this thing. Let's see what we've all learned. And you had several advisors share some best practices, and that was recorded and is available on the e-learning site. And then last but not least, today we did a mindset training, mindset empowerment with an expert in neuro-linguistic programming, and they delivered a couple really good helpful hints. I mean, at the end of the day, you can spend all the money you want on your webinars, but if what's going on between your two ears isn't positive, opportunistic, and exciting, you're going to bomb on your webinars. And so much of it is, you know, what's going on in your own mind, your own brain, and having that mindset empowerment training.
And if you're like an ex-hippie or a hippie at heart, like you're going to love this stuff. If you're not, you still will get a few really good nuggets. I sat through it and it resonated with me, and I've told everybody about this before, but I mean, every day I start by writing out my intention for the day. I write my 3 wins from the previous day and my intention for the day. And I do my intention after I review my calendar. So I kind of visualize my day and what's that perfect day look like, and how do I need to act? What do I need to do? Who do I need to be? What do I need to embrace from like a core value standpoint to make it true, right? Make that day the best day I can make it be. And that's how I figure out what my intention is going to be. That's a lot of the kind of stuff, mindset training that she talked about. It did resonate with me.
But you're not quite a hippie.
No, I'm one at heart though.
Yeah.
I did go
It was
Woodstock
good stuff.
in 1999, and that was fun. I was single back then. That was crazy.
Yeah. That wasn't for spiritual reasons though. All right. So we also, a couple other things, we made some big progress and updates on just how to use technology efficiently to run the bucket plan in a virtual meeting. And this came with, you know, Jason testing some of the training that I originally built, because, you know, we've kind of recognized just because I can do it doesn't mean a lot of other people can. And so Jason kind of was like, you know, I really needed to do this. And we thought through some ideas, and we just recorded a new, what's that?
I dummy proofed it. From a
So,
standpoint, I've fumbled my way through and identified the stuff that I'm like, this isn't realistic. This is really hard. Yeah.
So what we've done is in Microsoft OneNote, we've built out how to really take the whole bucket plan 1.0 into tools. And I just want to show it really quickly. I'm going to go here and share my computer screen. But you can see over on, and this is exactly how I would conduct a virtual meeting. Over on the right-hand side, you can see in my OneNote, my meeting 1, meeting 2, and meeting 3. So 3 appointments to the close generally, right? Or at least 3 kind of, you know, fundamental sections of the overall process map. And so what we've done is we've built everything all into one internal source. So I don't have to navigate through different computer applications to be able to get to what I need. And so, you know, I do the connection questionnaire and I handwrite my notes on there. And when I'm doing that, I'm not sharing my screen. I'm just having the camera up so we're looking at each other. But then generally when I finish that, I pivot and say, you know, I have to commend you guys, Jason and Holly, you've done a great job going through something we call the money cycle. Are you familiar with the money cycle? And that's when I'll pull this up and it's right here in OneNote. And I'll say, well, there's really 3 phases. You know, phase 1 is accumulation. Phase 2 is preservation, and phase 3 is distribution. And, you know, the biggest mistake that we see people make, and of course I'm shortcutting this because everyone on this call is a master at explaining this, but as you can see in my OneNote, I've got all my documents that I can just scroll right through that I'm going to need in the first meeting. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through the money cycle and explain that. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through the bucket plan philosophy and I'm going to explain that. And I can draw right over it. You know, we need a year's worth of income. We need an emergency fund, and we need any planned expenses. The soon bucket is really going to be your income money. It's going to provide income for the first phase of retirement, and it's going to give us the confidence to invest the rest out here in the later bucket. And so you can sketch and draw right over these, you know, tools in Microsoft OneNote. Then I'm going to go through for the power close at the end. Is I'm going to say, you know, I want to take a little quiz here. We want to rank what your top concerns and priorities are so we could know where we need to focus. And so if I'm meeting with a husband and wife, I'll just blow this up and have it full screen. And I'll say, Jason, and Holly, for example, running out of money. Would you rank this a number 1, number 2, or number 3 in your top concerns? And so, if Jason ranks it a number 3, I'm going to write a J over 3. But if Holly ranks it a 1, I'm going to write an H over the number 1. And I'm going to go through, and if they both rank the next one a 2, I'll check it. If they both rank the next one a 1 and a 3, I have the ability to write all of that right on the screen. And so we have meeting 1. Meeting number 2, if I scroll up to the very top here, you can see it's in the same exact structure, the asset inventory document, which we're going to go through, and I can write out, you have your checking account, it's joint, type is checking. And so you can write out all of the information right here on the tablet, go through, collect all the data. The income gap assessment is right in here. Again, I can write in exactly what they're going to do. I'm flying through it. Excuse my bad handwriting right now. We have the volatility tolerance analysis. I would go through and, exactly do this whole thing on the screen and get through the entire process all the way to the pyramid of risk right here. And so that concludes, meeting number 2. And then, of course, meeting number 3 is the plan deliverable, where, I'd show the sequence of returns risk to reinforce why we have a soon bucket. And so that was a big kind of innovation of making it easier. And we've just recorded training for the advisor on how to deliver all of this in OneNote, but also for your administrative team or your tech team to get this set up for you inside of OneNote. And so that, I think, is going to help a lot of people run virtual meetings and use the tools.
That's great. Yeah.
So I flew through that because there's literally, the advisor training is 17 minutes. The tech or admin training is about 35 minutes. And I go much slower in detail showing how to do it. So highly recommend. We're going to be sending those trainings out. You'll have the ability. Microsoft OneNote, if you have Office, you already have OneNote for free. It's not even something you need to buy. So very helpful for you.
And it's super easy because if you have a tablet, then you already have one. But if you don't, you get a tablet and you literally just have your tablet log into the same meeting that you're in with the client on your PC. And then you sketch on your tablet. You just do a screen share and you hit share screen on the tablet. And now they can see what you're writing on as you're flipping through OneNote on the tablet while you're conducting the meeting right here on the computer. So it's very user friendly. It's very much so like writing on a notepad, writing on that tablet with an electronic pen. So I love it.
Yeah, and what's really cool, Don Chamberlain just put in here, what tablet are you using, Dave? And I use the Microsoft Surface Go, but the reality of it is you can use OneNote in an iPad if you have it. But what's great about it is, like, you can show the concept. So if I'm showing sequence of returns risk and I'm like, we have 2 great years early on, we have 2 bad years at the end, we have 6 years of 10, I can go over here and say 6 times 10 equals 60. 60 divided by 10 equals 6%. And then what I could even do is I can scroll over here and say, do you know how the new math works? If you had $1 million and you lost 30%, so now you have 700K, how much would you need to get back to $1 million? And so you have the ability to just kind of go through your entire sales process just like you would if you had a whiteboard in your office with these documents. And I could say, that's right, you need 43% to get back to even. As you can see, sequence of returns risk, here's another example. You lose early on, great years at the end, same years at 10, you end up, and I'm flying again through this, but I'm just showing you conceptually how you could do this with prospects and clients. And it's all easy in one single application on your computer.
It's awesome. Yeah. The other little thing I want to share too that came out of the advisor panel yesterday is a lot of the clients, right? The technology's new to them, and so there is we use Snagit, and I can't remember. Jude Wilson shared with he used it's like called
Loom.
Fantasia or Camtasia, something.
Loom is the best and easiest one out there if you want to use a cheap, easy one.
Better
To
than
record.
Snagit?
Yeah, better than Snagit. Yep, and
Loom.
I use Snagit too. Loom, Loom. Yep.
Okay, so basically you're just recording what you're showing on the screen. And so what you do is you record how to actually log in, when you go onto Ring Central or Zoom or Meet, whatever you're using, whatever it is, record a quick little tutorial and send it to every client as part of the process before their first virtual meeting. And so that way, not only do you might have a step-by-step, but it's so much easier if they can see somebody walk through it along with the step-by-step. So I thought that was a great idea to record a little screen share and send it to the client before the meeting.
Yep, that's a great idea. I shared it with Richard James's office because, to troubleshoot that, doing the same thing. Loom is cool because as you're explaining something and you click on it, it highlights where you're clicking. So, a lot of times when you're watching somebody do a screencast and they're saying click here, but you can't really see where they're clicking, Loom solved that issue. And so they're a great solution for that. Now, Jason, I just showed the bucket plan 1.0 in OneNote. We do have our first live virtual training around this coming up in May, right? Are we at capacity or do we have any spots left? Did you end up hearing or no?
No, I don't know. Jennifer called me. I'm not sure. But I tell you what, anybody who can get into that, it's really important because we've revamped 1.0 and we've unbundled a lot of the stuff that used to be under the 6 steps and broke it out to make it so much easier to operate in a virtual environment. We spent a ton of time and energy unbundling, all these tools and concepts, breaking them out. So that way now, and then Dave, you've recorded the virtual training on the bucket plan best interest process 1.0. And so now those two coincide perfectly with each other. So even if you've already gone through 1.0, if you haven't gone through it in the last year, you should absolutely try to sign up and get a spot. This is going to be fun. We're going to do it virtually, but we have all the technology set up where we're doing role playing. We'll have several breakout rooms where we'll pair you off in 2 to role play as a client, as an advisor, to utilize these tools and the scripts and everything that we're teaching in the virtual environment. So it's going to be new.
And we're going to drink whiskey the whole time.
But Dave and I, we do have capacity. Jennifer just texted me.
So talk to your business development partner, get that set up. It's May 14th and 15th. It's a Thursday and Friday. And so there's some capacity left right now, but I would imagine it will not be for very long.
Yep, no doubt about it. And it's kind of fun. Dave and I actually are going to be in person for the first time, but we're going to be in a big room and he's going to be on one side of the front of the room. I'm going to be on the other side. We're going to have a cameraman in the corner in the back and then somebody running the tech in the other corner of the back. And so we're going to be practicing social distancing more than 10 feet apart, but we are going to be in the same room, so that'll be interesting. But cool that we're going to do this virtually, and we're going to utilize technology to create that intimacy and all of you to be able to do the breakouts and everything like we always do from a true experiential learning standpoint.
Cool. Well, Jason, we got about 5 minutes left here. We covered a lot of great stuff again. Patty said, I just had first meeting with a new client Monday using Surface PC. They committed to hiring us. Can't wait to get it all in OneNote, easier than Adobe. And yeah, it's amazing. I just, last night, I did a step 3 deliver meeting and ended up getting about 1.3 million of AUM. And literally for step 3, all I did was draw concepts of how the market works and small cap and value and going over the, that one rolling chart of the 4 factors of expected return, with equities over, and literally I spent the whole time just teaching him that and drawing it. And at the end of it, he was like, all right, $500,000 in the soon bucket, all the rest in the later bucket. He's a ways away from retirement, so no income, but it was all managed money. And it was purely just from drawing ideas in OneNote over the Valor pitch book. And so I had the Valor pitch book ready to go for step 3.
That's fantastic. Yeah. I'll give a couple things as you scroll through, Dave, if you see any other good answers to the, what would they do differently in the career. But I've been doing this 30-day yoga challenge I've talked about, which has been really fun and interesting. My wife and I are doing it together. We do it every night after the kids get to bed. That's less than 30 minutes. It's really great. I mean, it's what's it called? If you type in home, HOME, and then yoga with Adrian, it's a 30-day yoga challenge. So we've been having a lot of fun. My wife and I never did, that together other than in classes now and then. So I've been doing that 3 days a week. I got a virtual trainer piping in and running me through a 30-minute strength training workout. They shipped me a band, and it's incredible what stuff, all the creative things they come up with of what you can do with a band to get a killer strength training workout. So I'm doing that 3 days a week. Anybody who's interested in that, hit me up and I can send you over to this place. It's called Max Strength, but unbelievable, man. So efficient 3 times a week. And then, I think just like what's really important is I've been trying more and more of trying to create some social engagements. Like, Dave, we're doing these Whiskey Wednesdays. I feel like we're hanging out and just talking like we would on a normal call, just me and you, and people are listening in. And it's fun. Like, I'm enjoying it. And Fridays, we're doing virtual happy hours with everybody at our company. On the weekends, I've been getting together with my buddy Gene, who's our EOS coach, at our lake house in Marblehead. His balcony's one over from me, and we sit out there and just talk. And any ways you can, man, just try to get out there and stay engaged in this environment. So
Jason, we got a couple things. Carol Ward, awesome. Completed virtual meeting with an existing client, moving $250,000 into Allianz, 100K asset-based long-term care, 15K into final expense, and 300,000 into a PCA portfolio. So certainly makes the virtual meeting worth it. I want to share that my big win this week is I'm going to switch my camera around. I got my ring light, and it has been a game changer. So that's awesome. And then Richard James's office, Nick Shaheen over there, I've had Wi-Fi issues at my house, and he was like, oh, you got to go buy this Google Nest Wi-Fi. And so I bought this. It was, they take the square footage of your house, and then basically what it does is it creates a web of Wi-Fi around your house. And so I set all these up today. My Wi-Fi is booming right now. Same internet provider, but just by having these. And so, some really good, it's called the Google Nest.
Like NEXT?
NEST, like the Nest cameras.
Oh,
and yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yep. And it's just their Wi-Fi device, not the Google Wi-Fi device. It's the Nest one. I bought the Google one and then I had to return it because it was the wrong one. I had to get the Nest one. For my house size, it was $310 because I had to buy 2 additional extenders. But I've been running on it today, and it's like I have a whole new Wi-Fi here at the house. It's amazing. So
Wow.
I have to thank Nick for that.
Yeah. You'll have to give an update next Wednesday and see if it's still working that well. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yep. So.
Well, thanks
All
everybody
right. Well,
for joining us. Yep. Any last? What
yep.
were you gonna say?
No, I was saying I think there's a few more questions in here, but shoot them over to your business development team in an email. We'll make sure to get you answers to them, and look forward to hanging out with everyone next Wednesday, sharing some more success stories and probably some more failures as well.
Yeah, and thank you to all of you because you're providing all the data, all the ideas, all the insights that we're trying out and making progress and sharing with everyone else. So sincerely, thank you to all of you that are doing that.
All righty. See you next week.
Yep. Take care.